Hello, welcome to Watan الكرامة News Service. It is 9 p.m. our time for top stories, and we start with latest developments in Libya. Media advisor for the Parliament Speaker Fatih Abdul Karim al-Mariami stressed that the Parliament Speaker, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces Aguila Saleh Guaider, offered condolences to the families of the oil institution's guards who were martyred during the clashes with the terrorist elements of Daesh group in Al-Hilal al-Nifti area. Chancellor Guaider denounces the attack in Sidra port and oil institutions in Al-Hilal al-Nifti region, which led to the martyrdom of a number of the oil institution guards elements and wounding several others. He also reiterated his call for the international community to lift the arms embargo imposed on the armed forces and support the military to eliminate the heartbeats of terrorism in Libya. Media source at Set Company for Oil and Gas Production said that the terrorist Daesh group caused the ignition of some of Al-Waha Company reservoirs, noting that 6 tanks caught fire in addition to a leak of one of them. The source added that there is an attempt by the employees of the company to transport crude oil from the 13th reservoir and to the UAE Lipico Company in Ras Lanoufa, indicating that workers are having difficulty in flow due to accompanying vehicles works, the collapse of a part of the reservoir and the rise of the temperature. UN envoy to Libya Martin Kobler condemned the arranged attack on the oil ports of Sidra and Ras Lanouf by the terrorist Daesh group. Kobler stressed that these oil resources are the property of all Libyan people, and Libyan parties should exert efforts to prevent any attempt by Daesh to finance the terrorist agenda through the seizure of the Libyan oil. He pointed out that this attack is a reminder for all Libyans to implement the Libyan political agreement and forming a national unity government. The European Union expressed its concern about the terrorist attacks carried out by the terrorist Daesh group on oil ports. A spokeswoman for the European Union, Catherine Ray, stressed that these developments stressed the urgent need for the formation of a national unity government as soon as possible and realizing stability in the country, noting that the European Union are in constant contact with the President of the Presidential Council, Faiz Sarraj, and all Libyan parties, and with the United Nations envoy to Libya, Martin Kobler. Health Minister Rida Al-Aukali stressed during a press conference that the medical sector requires approximately 3 billion dinars for the Department of the Health sector, with only 9 million dinars which is not provided. Al-Aukali noted that the main way to straighten out the situation of the health sector is to restructure health services and not the amount of funding only, adding that there is almost a lack of funding for the health sector by the interim government. Moreover, he noted that the cost of only one case treatment required $35,000. Al-Aukali added that the clinics in Tunisia demands about $100 million from the interim government for Libyans' treatment there. Armed forces gained control of the strongholds of terrorist Daesh group near Al-Hawari General Hospital. A media source said that the attack began in center of Safa projects and Philippine district with the participation of Battalion number 204 and the Air Defense Forces. The source pointed out that the attack didn't result in any casualties in the ranks of the armed forces, confirming the occurrence of a large human damage in the ranks of terrorist groups. And now to Sirte, terrorist Daesh group called on all employees staff in Sirte city to attend what it called as Sharia course. According to the text that carried the seal of what the group called Public Services for Tripoli Center, the group asked the employees of Services Center in the city that there will be Sharia course in Al-Wagadogo Horse Complex, and it has called all the staff to attend the course. And now, my audience, our time for international items, and we start with West Bank. Mourners marched in a funeral procession in the West Bank today for a Palestinian man shot dead after stabbing an Israeli soldier. The attack occurred in the West Bank, a scene of many recent incidents. There has been a surge in violence since October. Israeli forces or army civilians have killed at least 133 Palestinians in the same period, 86 of whom authorities described as assailants. Most of the others have been killed in clashes with the security forces. Violence have been fueled by Palestinians' frustration over Israel's 48-year occupation of land. They seek for an independent state and the expansion of settlement in those territories which were captured by Israel in the 1967 Middle East War. Violence has also been triggered by Muslim anger over stepped-up Israeli visits to Jerusalem Al-Aqsa Mosque complex, including by ultra-nationalist politicians. And now to Yemen. Yemeni government spokesman and security sources said 3 senior southern Yemeni officials survived a suicide car bomb attack on their convoy in Aden and a subsequent gun battle that killed 3 of their guards. Government spokesman Nizar Anwar said a suicide bomber in a car detonated as the governors of Aden and Lakhsh provinces drove past the area of Inma. He said Aden's security director was also in the convoy. 3 soldiers were killed in the exchange of fire which followed the attack. Security sources said before the assailants retreated into the surrounding desert. The incident highlighted the security chaos in the port city, the temporary seat of Yemen's embattled government, as its loyalists seek to wrest the capital Sana'a from the Houthis government with the support from a Saudi-led coalition. Saudi Arabia signaled that the breach in its relations with Iran would not affect the talks on Syria, another round of which is scheduled in Geneva this month. Riyadh and Tehran, which support opposition sides in the Syrian civil war, have attended the previous talks on the conflict, but there is concern that the new rift between the rivals could set back diplomatic efforts to bring peace to Syria. Speaking after talks in Riyadh with the UN Special Envoy for Syria, Stephen de Mistura, Foreign Minister Adel was quoted as saying that by official Saudi press agency that the recent tensions that impacted the region negatively will not affect the operations that the United Nations carries out alongside the international community to achieve political solutions in Geneva soon. Saudi Arabia and some other Sunni Arab countries have broken all ties with Iran after protesters in Tehran stormed the Saudi embassy in protest over Riyadh's execution of Nimr al-Namr. British Prime Minister David Cameron told lawmakers he was confident he could reach a reform deal with the European countries. He was briefing the House of the Commons on his latest round of talks in Brussels. He said, "I believe there is now a pathway to an agreement." He further said government ministers would be allowed to campaign to leave the European Union at a referendum due by the end of 2017. Up to a third of Cameron's team of senior ministers have expressed the Eurosceptic sentiment, and there have been speculation about some would resign as ministers if he forces them to back remaining in the bloc when he completes a planned recognition of Britain's relationship. The European Council will hold Leaders' Summit on February 18 and 19, where Cameron hopes he can finally seal a reform deal. If that is the case, it's likely he would hold an in-March referendum in 2016 rather than wait until 2017. And our item now from EU and the refugees crisis. The Deputy German Minister said today that Germany has seen no drop in the number of people arriving and seeking asylum despite EU efforts to confront a migration crisis. Speaking after a meeting with Sweden, Denmark and the EU over border controls, He blamed a lack of controls at Europe's borders for the current migrants crisis. The deputy German minister said we had an average influx of 3,200 refugees per day arriving in Germany, and the numbers are not declining the last days. He added that our problems at the moment in Europe is that we don't have a functioning border control system, especially at the Greece-Turkey border. We must apply the common European asylum system properly. This call for a tightening of controls at the 28-nation bloc's borders was echoed by Swedish Migration Minister Morgan Johansson, who asked for a fair sharing for responsibilities across the European Union. More than 1 million people fleeing the Middle East and Africa arrived in Europe in 2015. My audience, that is a wrap-up of our top stories for today. For much more, you can check our website www.watanilkarama.tv. Thanks very much for being with us. My greeting, رانيا البليدي.
ليبيا وطن يأبى الضياع.